Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today is the March 12th meeting of the Regional Operations and Safety Advisory Committee. We'll start with introductions. We'll start here in the room, I guess. My name is Andrew Tracy. I'm with the Capital Region Transportation Council. I guess we'll go around this way. If you'd like to start.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Adam McCarville. I'm with the Transportation Council.
Carrie Ward, also with the Transportation Council.
Mark Castiglione with the Regional Planning Commission.
And Robbie McHugh with the Town Colony.
Jesse Vogel with LaBelle Associates.
And if we could just introduce ourselves, if you're calling in via Zoom as well, we just need your name and your affiliation, your name, your title, and your affiliation for our notes. So can we start with Leah, please?
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute myself. My name is Leah Rye. I'm the Administrative Specialist for the Transportation Council.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to go down the list as I see it here in Zoom. Peter Knutson is next.
Peter Knutson, Director of Engineering for Schenectady County.
Thank you very much for joining us. Christina Akey.
Hi, Christina Akey, New York State Department of Health, the Bureau of Occupational Health and Injury Prevention. I'm a health educator.
Okay, welcome. Ethan Townsend.
Ethan Townsend, Transportation Planner with Capital Region Transportation Council.
Thank you very much. And other Ethan Warren, please. We know Ethan Warren's a planner with CDTA. We know Ethan. How about Jennifer Hogan?
Hi, everyone. Jen Hogan, Section Chief Injury Prevention Programs at the Bureau of Occupational Health and Injury Prevention at the New York State Department of Health.
Thank you very much and welcome. Can we get Kelly Kircher next, please?
Hi, everyone. Kelly Kircher, New York State DOT Region 1, Assistant Regional Traffic Engineer.
Thank you very much and welcome. How about Mary Harding?
Hey, everybody. Mary Harding, NISDOT Main Office, Highway Safety Bureau Director.
Thank you and welcome. Mary Tanner Richter, please.
Hi, Mary Tanner Richter, Deputy Commissioner for Traffic Safety and Investigations with DMV.
All right, thank you very much. William Fitzgerald is next.
Yeah, hi, William Fitzgerald, NISDOT Region 1, Planning and Programming. I'm a transportation analyst.
All right, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And Bill Trudeau, please.
Hi, Bill Trudeau, the City of Albany. I'm the Director of Traffic Engineering.
Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you for joining us. Did I miss anyone online or did anyone join? Doesn't look like it. Thank you all very much for joining us today. We'll run through the agenda real quick. We'll begin with public comment. No one reached out to us to register. Any public comments at the top of the agenda today? Okay. We're going to move on to the first agenda item today, which will be a New York Route 7 corridor study, Safe on 7 presentation from Jesse Vogel here beside me. And I will share his slides in just a moment. Following Jesse's presentation, Carrie and I will be giving updates on about 6 different ongoing planning initiatives that the Transportation Council is involved with. But otherwise, it'll be a short agenda today. So let me share this screen. All right. And if you're watching on Zoom, just give me a thumbs up if you can see the presentation in full screen. And I'll pass things over now to Jesse Vogel. Jesse, thank you very much for joining us today and giving us an update on the Safe on 7 corridor study. I'll pass the mouse over to you.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Happy to talk about the study. So this is a linkage study. It was initiated by the town in conjunction with the Transportation Council's linkage program. You can see here on the screen the study area. It's about a 3.5-mile corridor in the town of Niskayuna from the town border with the town of Colony all the way to St. David's Lane, stopping just short of the interchange with Union Street and the Crosstown Expressway. The focus of the study was on safety and multimodal improvements. And so here you can see the project vision that was developed with the study advisory committee. The purpose was to focus on safety, mobility, resiliency, and the overall streetscape. Improving pedestrian and bike access, eliminating fatal and serious injury crashes, and making more walkable, bikeable, connected corridor. That led to a series of objectives, mostly focused around assessing safety concerns, identifying improvements, engaging with residents, stakeholders, and enhancing the streetscape. So I want to jump into some of the high-level existing conditions. This was one of the first steps of our study. Want to start with the crash data. Here you can see a heat map of all the crashes that we saw in the corridor. Most of them are centered around the existing traffic signals, which are shown with a green dot. One notable exception, though, is in the area in front of Bellevue Women's Care Center. That hotspot that you see there is unsignalized. There's a bit of curvature to the road, also, some grades up and downhill there that could be contributing to those crashes. Not just looking at crashes, though, we also wanted to see the severity of it. So here we mapped them out by severity. These are the injury, serious injury and fatal crashes, fatal represented by the red. And so there are a number of fatal crashes that occurred throughout the corridor. Another big concentration, though, in that area of Bellevue Women's Care Center. Several pedestrian crashes trying to cross the road, also left turn crashes, people turning out of side streets. And then a few head-on collisions as well, people struggling to stay in their lane. Unfortunately, while we were progressing the study, we had 2 additional fatal crashes over the course of the 1-year study. And so that just speaks to the need for urgent improvement. When we try to dive into what's causing these crashes, one thing is apparent is that speeds through the corridor are very high. Posted speed limit is 45 miles an hour, with the exception of a 40-mile-an-hour segment in that area by Bellevue. 85th percentile speeds, though, are generally 50 miles an hour or higher, sometimes up to 15 miles an hour over the posted speed limit in that 40-mile-an-hour segment. So real need for traffic calming there. We also looked at other existing conditions, but really wanted to focus on the speed and safety concern, because that's what drove a lot of the study recommendations. Following our existing conditions, we went to the public for a first round of engagement. Wanted to get feedback on what the study goals were and what's most important to people. Number one comment that we heard is pedestrian and vehicle safety. You can see those are the top 2. Received about 70% of the responses. Followed by traffic congestion and capacity. So acknowledging that Route 7 is a major route through the region, does carry a lot of traffic, and we need to be able to accommodate that traffic still. We asked people how safe they felt driving through the corridor, or regardless of which mode they travel. So you can see, regardless of mode, the majority of people said they felt either somewhat or very unsafe traveling through the corridor. As you go from driving to more active transportation modes, those percentages increase, knowing that pedestrians and bicyclists are vulnerable road users. And so based on that first round of engagement, developed 3 key goals. 1, to reduce high speeds, 1, to provide safe access to Route 7, again, regardless of mode, so both for pedestrians, bicyclists, and people that are driving and riding transit, and then improving the bicycle and pedestrian connectivity across the road. And so that led to a long list of potential improvements that we developed prior to our second round of engagement. You can see them on the screen here. Things with a green check mark were determined to be feasible, with a red check mark determined to not be feasible. So that includes a road diet. We looked at narrowing the road from 5 lanes to 3. And found that just based on the amount of volume that it carries, and the signals would back up too much. I think it was a 26-minute travel time through the corridor, where it currently is about 6. So realizing that wouldn't be feasible. And then the ones that have a yellow question mark they may be feasible depending on how they're implemented, and that comes back to pedestrian crossings, and changing the posted speed limit on the road. Really things that we would want to see done in concert with these other recommendations. So we presented that analysis at our second public workshop. Was held at Iroquois Middle School. We had over 175 people attend. We had a presentation and a set of boards that showed the concepts and the analysis. Overall, people responded very positively to the safety first approach. They expressed some concerns about traffic operations and some of the concepts. And we took that and we also launched a survey, which had about 400 responses. We asked people, again, about each of those elements that had those green check marks or yellow question marks, how they felt about them, and how they would prioritize them. And so there was overwhelming support for all of the concepts that we showed. 70% or more said that they would like to see them implemented. Then it just becomes a matter of what their priority is. And so the highest priority, recommendations are shown at the top, represented by the green bar. And that includes pedestrian crossings, new traffic signals, raised medians, and reducing posted speed. I'll just note that their bottom three recommendations are the ones that were seen as the lowest priority, were the ones that are sort of the off corridor recommendations, and that included some trail connections both to Birchwood Elementary School, opposite Inman Road, using a utility right of way, and then also in the Alicia Kill Preserve area. So again, still support for those ideas, but the message that we heard loud and clear for the public is fix the corridor and make sure it's safe for people to travel on and across. And so that's what led us to our recommendations. And so the first recommendation that we have is to construct a continuous raised median with planned breaks on Route 7 for the entire length of the study area. What does that mean? That means raised median similar to what you see on the roadway, with breaks at the existing traffic signals, as well as some new proposed traffic signals that would include a series of enhancements to make them logical breaks, really consolidate traffic to some key areas, while also calming traffic through the corridor. We presented two different options at the first public workshop. Option one has proposed signals at 3 locations, whereas option 2 has it at 2. Those are represented by the orange dots, so you can see which cross streets those would be at. The green dots represent existing signals. And so when we presented these to the public and we had our survey, there was preference for option 2, which prioritizes access to Bellevue, as opposed to option 1, which provided a bit better neighborhood connectivity. We did see, though, that in the survey, the preference for option 2 could be skewed with opposition to a path along utility right of way. Right, so when you look at option 1, there's a signal at Inman Road, and that would be opposite that proposed path connection, which some people were opposed to. And so they might have opted for option 2, thinking that that would make the path not happen. So we did note that in the report as well. On the eastern segment of the corridor, there was only one kind of alternative laid out for new signals, but you can see them here. That includes signals at Shannon Boulevard, which is neighborhood. There was a fatal crash there with a left turn, and that provides a crossing opportunity to get to the Alicia Kill Preserve. Mohawk Road is the only major collector that comes into the corridor that isn't signalized, and so that would add a signal there, and then a signal at Douglas Court, Pinecrest could also improve access. So what do we mean when we say add these signals and create median breaks and that continuous median through the corridor? It'd be full 3-color traffic signal with left turn phases to accommodate people turning left off of the corridor, and also U-turns, right? If you think about a continuous median, you're now no longer able to make a left turn at certain side streets. All those signals would be coordinated so that you can maintain vehicle progression. They would include crosswalks, countdown timers, to get pedestrians across the street. It would also help relocate existing transit stops to those locations so that now transit riders that are trying to access buses on either side of the street have a safe crossing opportunity. And then also a raised intersection. We saw a lot of success with the 787 project, where they incorporated raised intersections to slow traffic. And so with the transformation in the corridor, I think there's an opportunity to add some traffic calming there through the raised intersections. So here are some graphics. You can see the U-turns. That's what it would look like. Here's an example from Erie Boulevard, what it could look like on the street. An interesting case that we had was Fire District 2 is on the corridor. And so we realized that even with a continuous median, they would need access to be able to turn left. Likewise, there's a street opposite the fire station that currently under stop control, and so, you know, we think there's an opportunity for some sort of you know, hardscape treatment in the median there. This is an example again from Schenectady that you can see what that could look like. When we talk about transit relocations, here's what we mean. Here's one example, right? You can see the existing bus stop in the pink. You know, if new signal gets added, yeah, we move that to where the yellow bus is. You know, and that then creates a better pair of stops where, you know, when someone's riding eastbound, they get off on the south side. They want to go back westbound, they now can use the signal to cross and get on the north side. In addition to the continuous median with the median breaks, we're recommending multi-use path on the south side of the road for the length of the corridor. So, you know, when you're making the changes to the roadway, there's opportunity to narrow up the lanes. You know, what do you do with that extra space? You know, we think there's a good opportunity for bike accommodations. So you can see on the right-hand side, the red lines represent the existing back of sidewalk. You know, what we would do on the south side of the road is replace the existing sidewalk with a wider asphalt path that can accommodate bikes. Likewise, you know, there's an opportunity to reduce this turning radii with curb extensions. You know, that would tie in particularly well on the south side with a new path. You know, shorten those pedestrian crossing distances and calm traffic as it enters the neighborhoods. And those are shown with those kind of green areas representing the space that could be reclaimed. And then likewise, lighting came up a lot, and that, you know, having adequate lighting throughout the corridor, particularly at pedestrian crossings, could improve safety. The next set of recommendations were the lower priority ones, but still received support. These are the trail connections, and so there's a recommendation to connect to Birchwood Elementary from the existing neighborhood. Right, there's a little stub on the street here that would just need to tie in, and that would you know, make it possible for pedestrians to get to the school without having to go out to Route 7. Likewise, with a new proposed signal here, they'd be able to just walk back in through the neighborhood. Also, the Inman Road Trail that I'd mentioned earlier, this is that utility right of way shown. You know, there's potential to create the trail there that connects to Rosendale Road. You know, there were some comments that noted that Rosendale Road doesn't currently have bicycle infrastructure, and so again, it was a lower priority. You know, there's also a potential to connect along that right fork, which then could continue up towards the Empire State Trail. Again, take advantage of those assets. And then here's the concept in the area of the Alicia Kill Preserve. I mentioned, you know, Shannon Boulevard having a potential signal. You know, there would be a short segment of multi-use path here that ties into the existing trailhead and an opportunity for some placemaking. That includes bike parking and maybe some trail signage as the preserve develops. The report also recommends a couple of recommendations to consider in the future. One of those is adding leading pedestrian interval phasing, or LPI. You know, what that is pedestrians get to push the button, they get a head start into the crosswalk before traffic is released, so that way they can establish themselves. What we found is that would result in about a 2-minute increase in travel time through the corridor, though. And at that level of traffic increase, it becomes possible that people would divert to Rosendale Road to use an alternate route, which is something that the town wanted to discourage. So the recommendation here is to, you know, add the signals and then see how this could work out in the future. You know, even though the public did support the LPI phasing. And here you can see the travel time charts, you know, green representing existing, you know, purple representing what happens when you add new signals. The lighter pink shows that, you know, when you add that coordination, you get travel times through the corridor back in line with existing, and then the blue LPI is higher. So in addition to that, we had a couple of recommendations for further study. This came up a lot while we were doing existing conditions. You know, the way traffic enters the corridor through that interchange. You know, right now the Crosstown Expressway is high volume, high speed, and the Union Street interchange is designed to basically get traffic to get up to speed to match that traffic. There's an opportunity here to create a gateway that could calm traffic, and so we're showing some decorative banners, poles, pavement treatments, you know, all to signal to drivers that you're now entering residential corridor. Will tie in nicely with the proposed median. Likewise, after, some of the recommendations are implemented, the goal would be to reduce the posted speed limit through the corridor. And so you can see here that, reducing speeds obviously results in lower risk of injury. And so we would want the speed limits to be kind of in line with what the new design accomplishes. So that brings us to the implementation side of things. Want to start with a phase 0, which is DOT has a current traffic calming project that they announced right at the tail end of our study. It covers a portion of the corridor from St. David's Lane to Mohegan Road. It's funded about $4 million and currently in design. It does advance some of the goals in terms of reducing speed with some segments of median, some lane narrowing, but it doesn't include all of the recommendations. From what we've seen, there's no additional pedestrian crossings or traffic signals, no access management where the medians are being placed. They don't restrict access. Likewise, there's no shared use path or any transit relocations. So while it's a great first step, it leaves an opportunity to implement the rest of the study recommendations. And we wanted to provide the town with a couple of approaches for how they could do that. And so we've come up with 3. One we've termed the building block approach, and that is to continue with the DOT style traffic calming incrementally throughout the corridor, and then going back and adding in additional elements. The second, which we call the phased complete streets approach, is adding in those elements that are identified in the Safe on 7 recommendations to the DOT project. And then again, breaking the corridor into segments generally from west to east to get them implemented. And then the third is the comprehensive corridor transformation, which would be one large capital project to get all of the recommendations on the corridor implemented. That would rely on discretionary grant funding because of costs, which you can see here in the table. So starting at the bottom with the comprehensive approach, we estimate the cost somewhere in the range of $38 to $65 million. That range is based on the amount of full depth reconstruction that would be needed. If we assumed everything, that would be the $65 million. Whereas, being able to maintain some of the existing pavement lowers the cost. While that is the largest upfront cost, it is also the quickest timeline, anticipating about 6 years from when funding is received. And then also the most cost-effective overall, because you don't have multiple mobilization, you don't have additional inflation. Compare that with the phased complete streets approach, which costs generally range from 7 to 17 million. But the overall corridor cost increases because you're doing it in separate phases. Shorter timeline per year, but overall, breaking it into 5 different segments. See it as a 20-year project before all of the plans are implemented. And then the building block approach is, the longest and the most costly over the long term, but the shortest cost per phase immediately. And that's where you do each one of those 5 segments and then go back to incorporate the remaining components on a second pass through the corridor, and that's about a 30-year timeline. In addition, I mentioned there are the couple of trail improvements. Those are shown here. But one other thing that we identified is potential for traffic signal demonstration project. So if going with the DOT building block approach, there's an opportunity that rather than constructing new traffic signals, could procure some temporary traffic signals that you would see in work zone, and have those as a demonstration project over a 12 to 18 month period to be able to collect data, see how people react to it. So then that leaves the question, how does this get funded? At the federal level, there's formula funds, and so we'd recommend getting projects on the tip. Likewise, having the town pursue some discretionary funding, either through the build program, SS4A, TAP, CMAQ, and RTP are also options, but those would be element specific and only applying to certain pieces of the recommendations. At the state level, we know that the roadway departure safety action plan funds are out again. That could be an opportunity, as well as potential future intersection safety action plans, and then applying through CFA to those programs. And then at the local level, realizing that the town would have a match requirement, because it is a state roadway, That match would be probably about 5% because the March and Sally funds cover the remaining 15%. But something that the town gets to plan for as well. So I believe that's it. Happy to take any questions.
Sure. Thank you very much, Jesse. If you have any questions on Zoom, go ahead and unmute and ask your question or raise your hand if you prefer. Any questions in the room before we stop the share so I can see Zoom better? I'll start with a question I want to ask about the raised median. That comes up in a lot of studies we do as a good treatment on roads with a center two-way left turn median, where it's being used inappropriately for passing, or people turn into it and then use it as like a merge lane, or just speeding right down the center. It comes up a lot as a potential treatment for that, but there's usually a lot of discussion relating to who's going to take care of the median, who's going to take care of the landscaping. How will it affect emergency vehicles? How will it affect snowplow operations? Was there any discussion relating to that with this study?
Yeah, all of that came up. It's a great point, Andrew. So, relative to the existing conditions, we did hear that people use that two-way left turn lane to bypass traffic that's waiting. So they are using it inappropriately. The medians could solve that. For maintenance, I believe right now Schenectady County is responsible for maintenance. But the town does contribute to the funding. So they're aware that, with additional median would come additional costs. That's something that they would consider as they're doing their capital budgeting. Likewise with emergency services, I noted that there's the fire district on the corridor. And they did note that they were less concerned with the median because you have multiple lanes and theoretically people would pull over. But more so on the ability to turn left to make access there. And so just making sure that those U-turn movements could accommodate fire vehicles as well.
Okay. Any questions from anyone online?
Andrew, this is Leah. I don't have a question for Jesse, but I did just want to mention there were two people who joined virtually after the meeting started, Jason Davis and Jessica. If you guys could please type your affiliations into the chat, we would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Any questions in the room or online before we move on? Thank you, Jesse, for joining us. Great presentation. And there is a study website, right, where the whole final report can be found?
Yeah, so there is a project website. The final report has not been uploaded there yet. We're still working on formatting some of the final appendices and disclaimers, but that should be coming up soon. The project website is Safe on 7. You should be able to find that with Google. So I can certainly share that information with anyone that's interested.
Okay. Well, thank you very much once again. And we will move on now to the other updates portion of the agenda. I'm going to share screen again. Carrie and I have some updates to give on ongoing planning initiatives, and we'll start with the roadway departure safety action plan re-solicitation. So Carrie will give an update on this.
Sure. So this was, this is open again. It's our understanding that a big press release isn't going to come, but it is open. If you go to the website, the due date is April 17th. It's the same exact process as it was the last time around. You may recall there had been a dollar amount that we were aiming to, that was available kind of for each county or set aside for each county. A lot of counties throughout the state didn't use any of their funding or all of it. So the resolicitation is kind of gonna, my understanding here, is gonna be kind of a two-part thing. So first, we're gonna look, the state, when we are gonna look to try to spend the funds that had been allocated in the counties that hadn't spent any. And then But that doesn't mean if you're in a county that spent all of its funding that you shouldn't apply, because I think we anticipate that some counties still won't have spent theirs, and so we'll kind of do a second perusal through all of the applications to try and fund those ones as well. Since I made this slide, I realized that I forgot to go back and look at what actually got funded. So this is a table of the applications that we got in the region, but the amount that got funded was similar, so.
Yeah, I think we
so
funded in those amounts for both
It is
East
actually.
Greenbush and Saratoga counties. Yeah, we funded them. I'm
in
pretty sure for
those
those
exact
amounts listed in the second row there.
So Albany County and Schenectady County we didn't have any applications from those counties. So if you're in Albany County or Schenectady County, you should definitely consider applying. But that doesn't mean if you're in Rensselaer or Saratoga that you shouldn't. I think I would still encourage you to apply, because it seems like we'll statewide, we'll still, or region-wide, we'll still have funding from that may be available.
Had one more slide. Then do this right here.
Okay, so this screenshot is from our website of the locations in the state's plan, but not including the locations on state roads, because local entities can't apply to those locations on state roads. There is now a pretty good map on NISDOT's website, the roadway departure website, of their data. So I would encourage you to use that instead of using ours, although I did double check it and I think it's the same data. We have taken their data and put it up. And then you can go to the next slide. And then since we have our regional safety action plan done now, and roadway departure was one of our focus areas for risk factors, the priority locations in ours are also eligible locations as well now. And so in our Vision Zero, it's like Vision Zero action plan, priority locations map on the safety page on our website, this will show up there. So if you go to the roadway departures section and in the focus facility types, then you can see that. I'll pause here because I know Mary Harding was online. Mary, if you wanted to correct anything I said or add anything, please.
Nope, I was going to give you a thumbs up while you were talking about asking the communities and the counties that already expended their funds to continue to apply, because we will have the regions kind of roll up within their region and reallocate funds as necessary, and then it'll roll up to the state level. So if there's statewide funds that roll up, there's another chance there. So if you have a good project, definitely apply, work with the DOT regional office and the traffic and safety groups to make sure you have all the eligible elements, and they're identifying the best treatments for the problem at hand. Right. So you don't want to do like center line rumble strips if your problem is cars going off to the side of the road into the clear zone, right? You don't want to. So we just want to make sure that we're looking at everything and assigning the right elements. And we did work with, I think it was East Greenbush last time, and then a couple of the communities out in our Region 4, our Rochester area office, where we kind of looked at the elements that they were proposing and made a couple of suggestions. They revised their applications, and we just, felt really reassured that these are really good projects. So our regional offices are available to help, even beyond the MPOs. So they're due to the regions April 17th, and we hope to wrap it up quickly and get an announcement out by the end of May at the latest.
Okay. Before we move on, any questions about the roadway departure solicitation? Anything else you wanted to add? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next update, which is on the Capital Region Vision Zero Safety Action Plan implementation. I think we have a slide for that as well.
Yeah, so in our recent tip update, we have included a set aside for that for implementation of the recently completed Regional Safety Action Plan. So we're planning on that being a capital solicitation. I just put a question mark there in case, if anyone has other thoughts about that, we're open to hearing that. It is in there as 2 million over 5 years. And then we're open to feedback on kind of how to narrow the solicitation. So the priorities within the plan I have listed here. So we could kind of leave it, at that, or narrow it a little bit, and say, we want to really prioritize one of these types of things. So the plan's priorities are locations with the risk factors for those different kinds of crashes, which were pedestrian intersection speed and roadway departure. And just a reminder, it's, the focus is on fatal and serious injury crashes. We did have kind of safe routes to school criteria of locations as focus areas, and then safe routes to transit in our plan as well. And then, of course, we have the hotspot analysis. So the locations with the risk factors and the safe routes to school and transit in the plan, there's some, suggested countermeasures that would be implemented at those locations. The hotspots, there weren't any, with the exception of the approximately 40 field visits that we did, targeted safety investigations. So for those, we do have, recommended countermeasures for implementation. So this is a work in progress, and just looking for any feedback or suggestions that anyone may have. You're welcome also to contact me after the meeting. I think, so I do have some more slides that didn't really make it onto the agenda.
Yes.
We are planning to have a multi-use trails and utility corridors webinar that we are hosting. But it's National Grid is going to be presenting for us. It's on March 20th. It's free, and you can register for it on our website. Otherwise, I don't really know anything about it.
This link is up on our website for everyone to find.
I believe so.
Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Okay.
Just
on the topic of speed, since we have had some speed limit changes in the region, and so one of the recommendations in our regional safety action plan is to collect speed data, which, we collect speed data also on request. If anybody needs speed data collected, please let me know. We can help with that. But for school zone speed data collection. So if there's any schools that you may be working with who are interested in improving safety that may be related to speed around their school, and having speed data would be helpful, please let me know and we can try and provide that for you or for them. And then I did take a little bit of time to look into the impacts of the 25 mile per hour, sorry, just speed limit changes is what that should say. Thank you.
Yep.
So we threw out some counts at locations, speed counts at locations where either we or mostly though NISDOT had speed counts, not estimated counts, but actual counts. This is Schenectady and Albany. And we're seeing an average of 1 to 2 mile an hour reduction in the 85th percentile speeds, which doesn't seem like a lot. But just looking at Albany and Cohoes, and I know Albany has reported this publicly as well, but just looking at what's in Clear, in the first 2 or 3 months, both Albany and Cohoes were showing an initial over 20% reduction if you look at the fatal and injury crashes. So it's kind of initial impacts.
Just a quick question, if you don't mind, like, what is that percentage? Is that, what time frame is that percentage?
So it was either January, February, March. What year is it now? 26.
Yeah.
It was January, February, March of 25 compared to 24. So it was basically the first year after or the year before that. It was the first 3 months of both Albany and Cohoes, basically, I think.
Okay, thank you.
I need a refresher on the definition of percentile. So does that mean 85% of drivers or 85% of drivers travel the speed
Or below.
or below.
Yeah.
Okay. So the top 15%, we're going faster than that?
So that you do start to see, Schenectady has interesting data on this. That does look a little bit different. The higher speeds do seem to be less to a greater degree. Does that make sense?
There's more of
There's
a
greater reduction.
greater reduction
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah.
So the really bad actors are
In
slowing.
the number of vehicles going like, 60 and a 30 or whatever, yeah. Which is the way, so this, what I'm showing here is from our speed counts. Schenectady has. I don't think we have anybody from, well, Peter, if you know if you're welcome to chime in if you know better than what I'm talking about, but Schenectady has some data collection on like light poles. And so they are collecting speed at a lot of locations. A lot of them are lower, they're not necessarily collector streets. They're like dead end, the last 2 blocks of a dead end or something. And the way that they tabulate their data is easier to look at the number of vehicles going over 60, the number going over 55, the number going over 50. And so that was showing a greater reduction in the number of vehicles going over whatever those higher speed classifications.
Looks like Kelly Kircher has a raised hand. Oh,
I
sorry.
was just
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
I was just gonna say that, unfortunately, all that is run through the city, and unfortunately, Chris knows more about it than I do, so I would not be able to give you any more information than you know, Carrie.
Thank you,
Kelly,
Peter.
have
Yeah,
something?
Kelly Kircher has her hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, Carrie, Albany also instituted a lot of speed cameras. And, in my head at least, those are very effective. I don't know, do you know if Cohoes or Schenectady have implemented something similar, or is this just crashes are lower and speeds are lower just by changing the signs out?
So Albany, the other changes, I mean, they've been doing speed humps too. Those kind of all happened around the same time. Schenectady got approval to do the school speed zone cameras, but I think they're still working on rolling that out. So that wasn't a factor or hasn't been a factor yet for them. But yeah, you're right. There was definitely, it's not just one thing, certainly in Albany.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
All right, any other discussion? We got a slide here on.
With Albany, is it possible to isolate the areas where they hadn't made any other changes, like parts of Washington and Central Ave for example? So that
I didn't look at, I might be able, when I did the after the speed counts, those are at certain locations. I haven't looked at like trying to classify those into like, it's on one of the roads with the school that has the cameras. I'd have to look back at that data. I might be able to do that. In terms of the crashes, I guess it would be possible just to look at the crashes on certain locations. I mean, it'd be an interesting clear query. But I haven't done it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just if you I don't know what the utility of it necessarily would be, but if you wanted to isolate out the impact specifically of 25-mile speed limit, then there are areas of the city where changes have not been made other than the speed limit. That's just my point.
Right.
So, yep.
Okay, any more discussion? You have this slide as well, Carrie?
Yeah, so I threw this in, I thought, I actually didn't check today. But as of yesterday, the new grant solicitation from GTSC wasn't out yet, but I expect it will be out any day now. Last year, I think it.
It is out as of, I think, the end of the day yesterday.
Correct.
So you're good to go.
Is the due date May 1st?
Yes, everything has to be in by May 1st.
Okay. So I assume it's still police traffic services, child passenger safety, and the general highway safety?
Correct.
Okay. So, the police traffic services is for law enforcement agencies for traffic enforcement, child passenger safety is like the car seat fitting stations. And then the general highway safety are, it has a wider eligibility for applicants. But you have to kind of more specifically say what safety problem you're trying to address. I did go through and look at the grantees from last year's solicitation. And so over in the table here is just the general highway safety ones that were awarded. One of the recommendations in our regional safety action plan is to organize more coordination, I guess, among recipients of the GTSC grants in our region to try and encourage coordination and filling any, missing holes where we might be seeing issues, but we're not sure how to address them at our particular agency. So was kind of waiting till I knew that was out, but I am planning to put together a meeting of entities that I know have either received grants or who have applied for grants if they weren't awarded, although I only know about those if they've told me directly, because it's not information that I can otherwise get. If you are working with anyone who might be interested to come to that, who isn't, wouldn't already get invited because they're the contact for one of these, please let me know and I can add them to my invitation list for that.
Okay.
This was just an FYI, the state thruway is working on a safety action plan. That's the name of the website there. They are kind of collecting problem locations along the thruway, portions of roadways that the thruway operates. And the image here is the schedule that they have published. I don't think we know too much more about it, but it's just an FYI that this is happening.
And then your last slide was the symposium.
Did you want to say?
I don't know anything about it.
So I found this in the list of GTSC grants. It just said that NISTOT will be holding a day-long event in May of this year, designed to train all disciplines of responders in traffic incident management, principles involving all levels of responders through peer-to-peer exchange activities and presentations.
So this, if it occurs in May, it'll be before the next ROSAC meeting. So if we hear anything about this, if something is scheduled in May, we'll let everyone on ROSAC know.
I will say this is coordinated through Steve Bourne at, I think it's 50 Wolf Road through NISTOT. This symposium, they were trying to alternate years for in-person versus virtual.
What's that individual's name again?
It's Steve Bourne, B-O-R-N-T.
Yep, it's in the Office of Traffic Safety and Mobility. It's under our emergency operations section. Matt Basilo leads that. I have it on my calendar as May 20th. It's a Wednesday. I think it's scheduled for like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. At I think the Syracuse, either the fairgrounds or there's a big training center out that way. I don't have that location on my calendar, but if you reach out to Matt or Steve, they can get you more details about that, or Amber Stevens in our group.
Okay, thank you very much. If you have any information that you'd like us to share with ROSAC and our mailing list, feel free to send it over to us and we'll disseminate it. Okay, that was the last slide, but we have a couple more updates on the agenda. that I can give. I didn't make slides like Carrie did, but I'll talk about the 2025 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program. So you'll recall that our regional TIP was approved last September, with the intention of that being rolled up into the statewide TIP for statewide adoption. That was delayed. The statewide TIP was finally approved last month. Since then, staff here have been very busy applying all the updates to the statewide TIP that we had that had been approved by our planning committee and policy board since the STIP went out initially for public review. We just wrapped that up yesterday, so we will shortly be updating our TIP listings on our website. So the first listings of the new 2025 to 2030 TIP should be going up shortly as soon as all the changes get approved. So keep an eye out for that. There'll be fresh listings on our website soon. An update on our technical assistance program. So we have a few ongoing technical assistance projects that have either wrapped up recently or will be wrapping up soon. We're working with Town of Colony on a technical assistance examining the Loudonville Triangle, which is the intersection of Route 9, Osborne, Menand, and Old Niskayuna Road. Turns out there's been a lot of prior work done at that intersection by many different agencies, but none of it's gotten a lot of traction. We're collecting new data and we're rolling up all the prior work done at that intersection, and we're putting all the concepts that have been developed together in one place. And we're going to work with the town to try to identify what the appropriate next steps are. So that's an ongoing effort, and that should be wrapped up by the end of this month. In addition, we're working with the Albany International Airport on another tech assist for the airport entrance, which is the south entrance on Albany Shaker Road. This tech assist effort looks at general concepts and recommendations that were identified in the airport's master plan, which was updated last year. A lot of recommendations relating to parking or reconfiguring the way traffic flows through the airport campus, or big changes to the airport entrance. They were all identified as potential concepts in the master plan. We're looking at them in more detail. We have Creighton Manning on board to do some modeling of that intersection to see if something like a roundabout would be appropriate there. That Tech Assist 2 is expected to be done by the end of March, end of this month. We also just wrapped up the City of Albany preliminary curbside EV charging tech assist. We have Adam here. Adam, this one just wrapped up, right?
Yeah, this was a tech assist that wrapped up at the end of last year. It was done in partnership with Capital District Regional Planning Commission. And the focus of that study was to identify a methodology for siting curbside EV charging. Just wanted to note, if you or your municipality of interest is looking to do a similar analysis, please reach out to us and we can see what we have going on. I think it was a really good mixture of a spatial analysis and best practice analysis as well.
Yep, reach out to Adam or Carrie and I, and we'll put you in touch with Adam. You can go to our website as well. There's a page up for the technical assistance program. It's an open, ongoing, rolling solicitation, so reach out to us at any time if you have any transportation issues you'd like us to assist with. And the last update, we've had a lot of updates today. The last update is on the Troy Menands Bridge Pell study. This is the 378 bridge over the Hudson River. The Pell study has been ongoing now for a couple of years, but it will soon be entering its final public comment period. If you go to the website, you can see they're in the process of adding updated revised Pell draft reports and the Pell questionnaire. All of those materials have been updated to, because the study area got expanded a bit further to the west, a bit up 378. And they addressed a number of comments from FHWA as well. So NICEDOT should be sending out a press release shortly announcing the public comment period and inviting comments for another 30 days. So that's all from our end. That's everything on the agenda. Any other updates from anyone else, either in the room or online, that they'd like to share with the group?
Talk about that.
So I did have, one more thing, Jen, if you wanted to, I don't know if Jen's still on, but if you want to say anything about this, please feel free, but, GTS or Department of Health, working with GTSC put together a quick reference vehicle and traffic law for e-bike enforcement pamphlet. I think it's still kind of at the printer. This, Jen's office printed some in-house to send us, and I don't believe it's posted up online. So if you're interested in any, you can either request them from Jen, or us, and we can request them from.
Yeah, Carrie, it is Jen. I'm still on here. With micromobility, e-bike and e-scooters still being a critical hot topic. We did as we did under PSAP, working with GTSC. We went through the VTL book, extracting those laws that, because of course we know law enforcement are out there on the streets and they cannot enforce laws that they are not familiar with. So we pulled together e-bike and e-scooter laws for law enforcement, especially now as GTSC continues to run the circuit of offering law enforcement trainings around New York State. So this is a useful tool to them for that purpose. So it had to go through our internal approvals and it was approved recently. So as Carrie said, we did the in-house print for her, but we are doing a big print order and we'll work with GTSC on a massive distribution plan like we did with the previous ones we've built into our toolkit of resources. So do contact me if you do want an order. Okay. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other updates from anyone in the room today?
Or online.
Or in the Zoom room? Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Our next meeting will be June 11th. We'll send out a reminder and an agenda in advance of that, but hopefully we'll see you all then. Thank you very much for joining us and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.